On this first fly, the gray goose, we're going to use a curved scud hook. And you notice that I've got one already mounted in the hook, or in the hook in the vise. And I'm going to start my thread base about 1 eye width back from the eye and start wrapping back on the hook. We're going to end that thread base at a position, the book says down into the bend. Well, where is down into the bend? Well, the position that I use for the end of the body, or down into the bend, is a position down into the bend that when I pull forward on the taut thread, that the point of the hook and the taut thread form a 45-degree angle. That seems to work about right for me. Other people use different techniques, but that one works for me. Now I'm going to attach my rib material to the bottom of the hook shank and start binding it to the bottom of the shank as I wrap forward. Okay, good. Now let's trim off the waist and verify that it hasn't slipped and that we in fact do have the rib material on the bottom of the shank, and we do. I'm going to wrap back to the 1/3 position. On this fly, the front part of the fly is between the 1/3 position and the eye, and the back part is the back 2/3 of the hook. The next step on this fly is the application of the body material, which happens to be a slip of feather that I just cut off of this goose wing feather, and we're going to tie it to the bottom of the hook shank and wrap to the end of the body area, which is, as we already know, is down into the bend. And then I want to wrap back forward to that 1/3 position. Now I'm going to bring this around, and that thread's going to be in my way for a moment, so let me just kind of wrap it forward and get it out of the way. It's still going to be kind of in the way, but not as bad as it would have been. And we'll advance each turn of our body material so that it lays tied up against the previous turn. This is kind of a futzy job, but it's no big problem. It just takes a little bit of time to make sure that you get each turn tied against the previous. And you notice I'm holding it in place with the forefinger on my left hand as I push it around the hook. When those fibers get real short, it's a lot easier to keep track of it that way. Now I'll unwrap those turns that I used to get my bobbin out of the way, and we'll just trim off the waist. I'll grasp the rib material and start wrapping an evenly spaced rib. On this fly, the number of turns of rib aren't as important as the even spaces. On future flies, as you work your way through the different steps of the awards system, you'll find that sometimes the turns are important, number of turns are important as well. Okay, let's just kind of get a good thread overwrap here, and let's take a look at our rib. That one's a little bit out of whack there. I needed to straighten him out a bit. That looks pretty good there, looking good there, all the way around, pretty even placement, and that's what the evaluators will be looking for. So the fly tyers, it's important that you put those even turns of thread so the evaluators will like what they see. Now I'm going to put another slip of that goose feather for the wing case. And notice that it kind of curves down in front but comes pretty straight right back in here. And the straight part is what we want for the wing case. So we're going to end up discarding the front part and just using the back part. We'll anchor that into place. And let's wrap back to where it meets the body. Let's make very certain that we get a good even positioning of that, because that's another thing that the evaluators will be looking for. Alright, there we go. Now we'll go ahead and add the thorax material, which happens to be peacock herl. And I will just tie those on the top of the shank as I wrap back to the 1/3 position on the hook. Now I'm going to wrap the peacock herl forward, making sure each turn is tight against the previous. And we'll anchor that off. Pull that back at an angle so I can wrap a jam knot right up against that and push that back. And we'll push the wing case material over, anchor, get in place, several turns of thread, and now it's time to trim it off. And conventional wisdom would have you trim the whole thing, and sometimes that will leave a bad looking head because you don't get all the material trimmed as well as you could. I'm just going to trim off a little bit at a time. Don't try to conquer the world all at once, just get a few things at a time. There we go. Now we'll just go ahead and bind this down. Grab a whip finish tool and finish off the gray goose. Trim away the waste, and if you wish, you can use head cement. And I'm using some Sally Hansen's fingernail polish for head cement, which works fairly well. And let's take a look at the fly we just completed, the gray goose. Looks pretty good. Now it's your turn.